Hey, g'day guys. So I've got a Yamaha R1 2002 that needs a starter motor replaced. So I've ordered a new starter motor that's coming in, but I need to take the old one out. So I'm going to show you how to do it with the 2002. This particular model, you can bypass it and you don't need to go from the fuel tank and bypass through all the valves. You can literally get in right from the sides here, so just above the kickstand in this section right here. So we'll have to go through all the fairings, take those all off, which is super easy and simple. By no means am I mechanically sound, I'm just poor. So I need to figure out how to do it all myself, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. I have taken the starter motor out before, as I originally thought that was the issue, and it wasn't the battery or the starter relay. However, it was partially the starter relay and a fuse, my power fuse that was going in through the bike as well. And so I did take, the only way to figure out if you've got a bad starter motor is to really take it out, and then you essentially have to jump start it like you do jump start a battery as well. I did take the starter motor out, jump started it, and it worked. And so I was like, crap, it can't be my starter motor because it works. But I do remember now that I had to shake it around a little bit for it to work. And when I did take it apart, and the brushes on it were slightly not really touching the terminal, the copper terminal that's around it as well. So anyway, I put it back into the bike. It still didn't work. I had a code 11. So essentially where the starter motor is, we've got the battery, the starter relay, the power that comes in to the starter relay, transfers the energy, goes straight all the way down through the center on the other side, and then into the starter motor, which is just in here, which I'll show you more and deeper as well. But I had a code 11 coming up on this dash. So essentially this was wiped out, had a code 11, had the engine light on as well. Bike wouldn't start. Now why I didn't have a look at these here first, because the starter relay was stuffed and the 50 amp fuse was stuffed. That should have been the first things I looked at. Because I was so determined that it was the starter, I took the starter out, jump started it, and it still worked. And so I was like, crap, well, it can't be. And I didn't actually notice this fuse down here because it was sitting nice and snug. Now again, I'm not mechanically sound, so I thought the fuses were all in one spot down the side of the bike, but obviously not. Plus you do have the starter relay fuses, but I thought that's all I had to check. So how do you know if you've got a bad starter motor? Essentially there's not enough torque in it. It sounds like a dead battery. Now I got a new battery, and then I got a new starter relay, and so that pretty much kicked over and turned over the starter motor. But because I put the starter motor back in thinking that it was still fine, it still comes up with that issue of zoom, zoom. So it's definitely the starter motor. I could get new brushes for it. That's like 120 bucks. It's $165 that I spent for a new starter motor, so I may as well just get a new starter motor. Now I'll show you how to take it apart and bypass instead of going through the fuel tank here. The first things first, we need to remove this side fairing here, and it is this side with the kickstand. We're going to take off all these plastics essentially, so we have access to this area in here. We will have to remove the power from the starter relays. This is the power cable, and it's not long enough, so we need to remove that to bring it down this way, so then we can come in here and pull the starter motor out. The first things first, we need to remove this side fairing here, and it is this side with the kickstand. We're going to take off all these plastics essentially, so we have access to this area in here. We will have to remove the power from the starter relays. This is the power cable, and it's not long enough, so we need to remove that to bring it down this way, so then we can come in here and pull the starter motor out. Don't have any tools, you're gonna need them, so yeah, you're gonna have to invest in doing that. So as you can see, we removed that side fairing. You can see it exposes a couple of hoses here. Some I will pull out from here, and I can just lift them straight out. They're just air intakes for the fuel tank and an air intake for the air box as well, but it is in our way of getting into the starter motor just here, which I'll show you more exposure in a second. As you can see, this is just hanging here a little bit. It's going to be in the way for me, so I'm going to take it off a little bit further from here. It's time to open the fuel tank. Essentially, if you've got a stabilizer here, essentially just take everything off and remove it there. You've just got one bolt that's sitting in there. Unscrew that. This then is bolted in from here, and so it just works on a pivot point, axle point, so you just literally can lift that open. As you can see, yeah, the fuel tank's lifted up, and I just squeeze this wooden mallet underneath it so it holds it. These are all your connecting hoses. This is the air box. I am going to detach probably one of these, and then the middle one in here. You'll figure it out and see it. Maybe this one here as well. Just whatever's connecting on here, just to pull those out, move them out of the way, so they can get in there. Okay, so you can see I've taken some of the hoses out here. They're just from the air intake. I've done 2, and I have numbered them because I am not going to remember exactly where they're going to go unless they're attached. The fuel tank ones I have just moved out and placed to the side, and the other one I've placed to the other side out there. But you can see how much access we have in here. I'll just shine a light so you can see it. So that literally right back there, that is your starter motor. Okay, now there's just one more thing that's blocking the way, is this point right here, this guard right here. So easy enough, we're just going to take that off. Now your starter motor is only held on by 2 bolts. So you can see the 2 bolts, that one there and that one there. Do not go for the other bolts. For example, that one just behind the bolt that's bolting it to the engine, one behind it, do not go for that one. And there's another one on the other side that is taking apart your starter motor. So just the 2 bolts that are on the bottom. I've removed that guard, which is just here. Okay, I'm pressing it down. Make sure you keep all your nuts and bolts together in place and don't lose them, or you either screw them back into their spots as well, so you know where they are. You can't remove all these hoses. This is your coolant hose, so if you detach this, you're going to have coolant leaking everywhere, and you'll need to top it up there as well in case you do. But essentially you can just maneuver all these out of the way and open them up, and then we'll get that starter motor out. Looking at the starter relay, you can see this is the power cable that goes through it, runs all the way through the back, and then you'll see this is it here as well. Okay, so we will have to undo this. Once we get those other nuts and bolts off, we'll take that off, we'll feed it through, we'll pull on that, and then that way we can easily pull that out. So as you can see, I'm using an 8mm head there, socket, and then I've got the ratchet on top. I'm simply just going to undo it there. So it's a bit tricky and a bit tight with the spaces, but it is doable. All you need to do is get it loose enough, and then you can just simply get your finger in there and unscrew the bolt from there. It shouldn't be super tight, just hand tight, that's it. Okay, so I've got my bolts out. They're just 8mm. Taking them off. I've taken the wiring off my starter relay, fed it through, and so that's it here. And now I'm simply just going to use a nice long screwdriver. We'll get in here, and then we'll just lift it up a little bit. Just kind of have it break free. You don't want to do this too much, it's just to loosen it, any pressure that's on it, and then we'll simply get in there and pull it out. There we go, and it's literally popped off. And then we'll pull this all the way through. The only thing is, I'm gonna have to use 2 hands because I'm gonna have to guide that wiring. It's just cord in a bunch of zip tie with a bunch of other cables, and I'll help feed it through and be able to pull this straight out. Here we are, the starter motor. It's out, so we'll just take this off here as well, expose that rubber, undo it from there, and I'll also show you how to jump start it essentially to test it if it actually is working. So you can see there your flywheel, and that's where the starter motor sits. Now I'm going to cover this up because my starter motor doesn't come until a few more days, and I don't want any creepy crawlies, especially being up here in the territory. We get a lot of creepy crawlies and they go everywhere. Okay, essentially to test this, to make sure it does run and it is working, you've got your other jump starter, you've got another battery, put that onto the power, get that onto the ground, and I'm just going to switch this on, but essentially you might want to hold it because it can buzz around quite a bit, but if it starts up then it's still kind of good. Let's try it out. See, it is working. It's alright, it's disconnected, but it took a little while to kick in. Still has power running through it though, but when I connect it up all on 3 here, it's not working as well. When taking this apart, I found that the bushes had some gaps between the terminals, so it's either you just get new bushes or you replace the whole thing. So I've replaced the whole thing. So this took me about 30 minutes to get it out, so not very long, not very hard, very doable. And next I'll get the next one in, which is slightly, can be a little bit tricky, but essentially you just put it straight back into there. Very easy, very simple. We'll come back to it once I've got the new one, put it in and start her up. Here is the new starter motor. Nice and beautiful looking. Alrighty, let's get it in there. Alright, new one's sitting in there. Put everything back together on the starter. Let's turn her on. Already that fuel pump sounds so much more powerful and the electronics sound a lot more powerful. Woo! Test it again. Woohoo! There we go. That's how you do it. Starts up every time. So it was a bit more trickier to get this one in. Last time I got it in, I just played around with it a couple of times and I got it in, but this time I had to kind of use the screwdriver just to help me to tilt it up a little bit. As I got my other hand through, could lift it and push it through. So you're just going to have to play with it a little bit. I did turn the little nozzle, quarter turns or on its first turn to try and see if that would make any difference. And it was just playing just really little movements just to kind of like lift the back end up so you can easily feed it straight through. So hope that helps. So I'm going to put it back together.